Joining me for the news review now, at least for starters, I have in the studio spokesperson for the Movement for Change. He's a lawyer as well. Andrew Appiah Dankwa joins the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. I like your outfit.
Thank you very much. I salute Budasiru this morning of Siru Africa. He clothes me every Friday. And I was just sharing with Andrew that when a senior friend of mine reached out that, oh, there's this young man doing amazing things. Would you like him to clothe you as a way of support so that people get to know about him? I said, why not? When young people are doing something, I'm all for young people. So yes, I don't usually do this, but I accepted his because, and he does fantastic work. So yeah, and they are so, like the cost is so low. So I'll tell you about him later on the show. But you can also check out Siru Africa on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. That is SIRU-Africa. Coming into the studio, you're not looking bad yourself.
Yeah.
Polka dots, navy blue, what do you say? And he doesn't want me to mention his sneakers. Or sneakers, people are saying, oh, hey, you don't be children. What do I say? You don't be for kiddies.
Then I do that. Good morning.
But good to have you, Andrew.
Yeah, same here.
What are the thoughts on your mind this morning?
In fact, I didn't have anything particular. So let me wish you a good morning. But you know, whilst we're having a conversation prior to the show about your design, I must applaud you for that design, and not just a design, but something that you have been doing, as in helping push the young, talented people in this country. It brought my mind to sometimes feel Ghana as a state isn't doing too well, as in finding a way of tapping into the numerous potentials in this country and then turning them into something really big that will eventually benefit all of us. So you take the story of Google and all these American tech giants, and the question is, would they have managed to reach where they are, become billionaires, have companies that are trillionaire, what's it called, 10 OS, if they were in Ghana? My mind is in the spirit of the reset agenda that His Excellency John Mahama is pushing. I think that reset agenda wouldn't be complete if there isn't a radical reset of an understanding of the role government has to play in pushing individual talents in this country for the ultimate benefit of all of us. And so I'll call on government that in all sectors, as in the economy, politically, everything they do, they should understand that their role is to solve problems. Their role is to create that right enabling environment where all of our individual ambitions can have the best chance of being fulfilled. Their role is to find a way of including everybody in the agenda to build
inclusivity,
a very strong Ghana. And I know that, and I'm convinced that governments since time immemorial have failed radically at doing that. And I pray and hope that this reset agenda would include a deliberate attempt to create that right environment that will tap into the individual talents of every Ghanaian to ensure that we build a strong nation. That's my thought for the day.
Just two quick reactions to what you said. The minority leader in Parliament, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, in applauding the Boku Central legislator, Mahama Ayariga, who is now majority leader, called for working together.
Yeah.
And Mahama Ayariga in response said that they are going to be inclusive actually, and that they have such wide numbers, but in the spirit of unity and working together, they are going to be inclusive. And I'm going to look forward to that. That's something that, because the fact that it's like being a bully. Yeah. The fact that you are bigger, stronger than someone doesn't necessarily mean you should beat the person up.
Exactly.
You get it. I think like the president has promised and like the majority has promised, it sends a certain signal that we are not going, it's not going to be business as usual.
Exactly.
You remember when the NPP had 169?
Yeah.
Doing whatever you don't do that. Yeah. Because the tide quickly turned 137, and then it became a problem with the Fomena MP as the only, stand away. But I just want your quick thoughts, since you started talking about young people and all of that. What do you think about the creation of the Ministry for Youth Development and Empowerment, which is going to be helmed by Opariado? And what are your expectations?
Yeah. So fantastic. What's called effort. But I think the creation of that ministry should just be the beginning. My expectation is that deliberately government will use its power of fiscal policy, first of all, to find a way of identifying talents, use its power of fiscal policy to help startup companies, use its power of fiscal policy again to create the environment where small businesses, your son, can thrive. And by so doing, like I said earlier, give deliberate and real support to young people in all spheres, not just the academics, but like the very talented, as in the creatives, the sportsmen. As in, government should deliberately put in place policies, and not just policies, but also deliberately aid in terms of, because everything boils down to money. Yeah, you understand? Find a way of using or creating an expenditure space to aid some of these young people. As in, they could, as in, so in a great transformational plan, for instance, as part of our economic transformational agenda, we had a policy that said that government was going to use this power of fiscal policy to create what we called was called a government loan guarantee scheme. You understand? So you work in collaboration with the banks. You create a loan guarantee scheme. Then the banks then can unleash its liquidity to these startup companies to engender real growth and transformation. And I believe that the Ministry for Youth Empowerment should be thinking in similar directions. They must deliberately put in place policies that will identify and help young entrepreneurs, young creatives, and young people, because really they are the energy of the nation. Yeah. It's our responsibility to ensure that we help them so that the whole nation benefits from their talents. Yeah.
They are the lifeblood. Before you get into the papers, just to add to that, you know, I think there have been some reports, I've forgotten whether it is US specific or is it Canada or some other countries, and they mentioned that by and large, if you look at the countries whose citizens say they are coming there to study, and yet a chunk of them end up not studying, but they come into the country all right, then they divert and they go and do other things. You would find countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Bangladesh, and a host of other, Iran, a host of other countries per that report. Quite a percentage coming all right. And you see that there are stiffer restrictions on those now happening in different countries. From the UK and what they've done, you know, now they say initially, especially for master's, PhD, you would come and your family has the opportunity of, now they are cutting off all of those things. It's becoming trickier and trickier. And now Trump also says he's ending birthright.
Donald.
And some states are already beginning to, some people, but individuals.
They have actually challenged. So you know, a district court judge in Seattle has put injunction. That's the bit of the rule of law.
When Trump comes, the rates will be many.
Exactly.
The rates will be many. But let's get into the papers. Which one are you starting with?
So I'm starting with the Daily Analyst.
Okay.
And I think the headline news is that Mahama moves in full ministry to presidency to ensure guaranteed flow of information to the public. And Mahama Ayariga takes over as majority leader. I think the story that excites me there is the Mahama Ayariga bit. Has very positive feedbacks, and I think you alluded to that in your earlier submission. You see, my view has been that in the structure of our governance, we have just one parliament. You see, we are not practicing a parliamentary system per se. We have per system. You have parliament whose sole job is to serve as in beyond passing laws, is to serve as an oversight on the executive. It's not the duty of just the minority in parliament to do that. So what we have over the life of the Fourth Republic is the impression that it's just the duty of the minority to provide that oversight. Mahama Ayariga is saying that in spite of their overwhelming majority in parliament, they are going to include the minority. I know they don't like us to call them micro minority, but it's looking like they're micro minority. He's going to include.
You can avoid that. You can avoid calling them that.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll thank you for that. I'll try. So, in spite of the minority, so I think I'll start from now. In spite of the minority, as in the gap between the majority and the minority, they're going to include them. And I think it's a step in the right direction because we have just one parliament, and we can't continue to create that impression that we have two parliaments, especially if they are able to play their role, their fundamental duty, or especially if they are going to be fidel to their duty of serving as a check or as an oversight on the executive. Then it is important that they find a way of including, because the fact that they have a majority, in my view, does not mean that Parliament should become just a rubber stamp to what the executive.
True.
And that will be undermining the very essence of the constitutional democracy we took upon ourselves. So his sound bites are positive. I pray that when it comes to it, they find a way of showing their commitment and fidelity to their fundamental role as an oversight on the executive. And they can only do that if they find a way of including the minority, like he said, in everything they do, as against excluding them. All
right. Interesting thoughts shared there. But I would quickly ask you about, the numbers a bit. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, where he says, I'm sure you've heard, where he's talking about the fact that the president has promised 60 ministers. The president has been speaking to why there's no appointment to an information ministry as of now. But then there's also the question of 60 ministers. Let's start from there. And the fact that Alexander Afenyo-Markin is saying, you know what, apologize to Ghanaians and let them know that, Charlie, you will have to go beyond 60, because if government is to work well, you must do beyond 60. But the president also promised, and in fact, he's reiterated that he is going to do 60 and that some ministries will not have deputies. But this call by Afenyo-Markin that apologize and appoint more, political maneuvering, a way of testing the system, or what? What do you see there?
So let me say hello to my own brother.
Let's bring in Kwame Nkrumah. Good morning. You are looking fly this morning. You are looking very loyally.
Thank you.
With a bit of grey in there, spicing it up.
Let me give you a secret. So when we were in school, he was called Kubash. When in secondary school,
is this Achimota?
Achimota, he was called Kubash, and then also he was called Osajefo. So I don't know.
So he was called Kubash.
Kubash. And so when he meets his Achimota friends, they call him Kubash. They are likely to call him Kubash. And then when he meets his law school friends, like
Osajefo. Because the Kwame Nkrumah must reflect somewhere. So
exactly. So some of us are conflicted. So initially I wanted to say Kubash. I said,
right. Too many secrets.
When I come to you eventually, I will try to find out what Kubash, how you came about Kubash and what Kubash means. Yeah. Okay, so let's hear from you in respect of the.
So my honest view is that the comment by Afenyo is fueled by mischief.
It's fueled by mischief.
Yeah, it's an attempt to get the president to concede that what His Excellency Nana-Addo did, as in the huge numbers he had as ministers, is justified. But, I personally think that we don't need even up to 60 ministers to do the work of government.
But you see, if Afenyo-Markin says that, then we should be asking him why his candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, also promised 50.
50, even as...
So if Afenyo-Markin says, do more than 60 because, like you're saying, for you, it's marks of mischief. And then I would ask him, but honorable leader, your own party's candidate promised even less, 10 less. Exactly. So how about that? Would you have been advising your party's leader at this time to increase the numbers?
Or Or when they were telling us that they were going to appoint 50, were they being insincere? As in, it was a case of let's tell them something to get power, and then once we have the power, we will shoot them pepper. I mean, seriously, my personal view is that we don't need 60 ministers to run this country, especially if we are supposed to follow the constitutional desire of us having a truly decentralized system. You don't need 60 ministers. In fact, the position of the movement of change was that we were going to run the country, if we had power, with just 14 ministers.
All right.
Yeah, and so for me, I commend His Excellency, as much as I think that the 60 is too much. At least I commend him for the clear show of sincerity.
I guess it's a start, right?
Yeah, it's a start. So we should.
We've hit 100 and something before. We've done 80 something. Yeah, 125 came down to about 111 or 113. Yeah. Then we hit 80 something. Is it 83 or 88? Exactly. And now, at least, diminishing returns in economics. So even if we are at 60 now, who knows? Maybe next time 45. Who knows? Maybe next time 23. Then we are getting somewhere. So at least
so African should take it.
He should relax.
Allow the president to work.
I want to know how he will react to that question about Dr. Baumia, who said 50. So then,
in fact, I think we must find a way of bringing him here.
We must find a way of bringing him here to answer. Anyway, let me also welcome aboard Professor Isaac Boedi. Lovely outfit this morning.
Oh, brother. You learn from the best. I want to learn from you.
Good to have you join the conversation. But let me quickly come to Kwame Nkrumah Boatio.
Yes.
Your quick thoughts, and then we'll take it from there.
You know, my quick thoughts, it relates to something I wanted to avoid. I'm usually positive.
Don't avoid it. You say it.
But, you know, when I was coming, what was ringing in my mind since yesterday was diminishing returns. So when you said diminishing returns, you know, I think His Excellency started well. His Excellency is still doing well. But if you look at some of what is going on with retired or resigned appointees being sacked, and some of the questions that you are getting during the vetting, I think diminishing returns is setting in.
Wait, quickly on the first point.
Yes.
Retired.
Yeah, you know, there were some letters circulating regarding I think the former EPA boss, and the former
Dr. Akurugu and others,
and then the former NIA boss. There's some letters circulating asking them to vacate office, and these are people who apparently had already left office.
Oh,
there should be some attention to detail there. This is not a school club, but this is governance. You should do your due diligence administratively.
Right.
That is on the executive side. You don't issue letters to sack people who already resigned or
I know, for example, Samir Uku left a while ago.
Yes.
He resigned, among others, of the
it's not the best. They started very, very well. And as I said, the CPP, we are in to be partners and not just citizens, to make sure that the government succeeds for the good of the whole country.
Right.
And also some of the questions that are coming from the vetting committee they're a bit of a cause for concern. They're a bit of a cause for concern. I know that everybody is trying to reach the ideal, and we all know that the ideal is what pertained in the 60s, even regarding the number of ministers. I think Osajifo had less than 20 ministers, about 16 or 18. I know we are all aiming for the ideal on both the majority and the minority side, but let's not get carried away. Otherwise, these things set in. That is what is on my mind, because I know that the president is on course to make his tenure a huge success, and that is what we all want to see. But his lieutenants, those around him, they should exercise a bit of caution on both the majority and the minority side in order not to throw a spanner in the works. That is what I have to say for now.
All right. Thank you for those interesting thoughts. Prof, your thoughts?
On the appointments?
Oh, no,
I have followed the social media, TVs, and the various issues happening in the country, especially the appointment of the NDC members into a high office. I think we are still hoping and praying that those promises will be kept. That's all that we are waiting for. You gave a very good account of starting with some years ago, 120 ministers. Then it came to, you're giving the account. We are hoping to see 60. Did they promise 60 or 50?
60. It's not more than 60.
Not more than 60. And then,
so it could even be less than 60.
Yeah, so not more or less. That's what we are hoping for. And I don't know what Afenyo said, but I'm sure.
Afenyo said, apologize to Ghanaians and appoint more than 60. After all, you can just explain to Ghanaians that, Charlie, actually, I came in and I realized that I need more ministers. And that's why I was asking, okay, so would he have been giving this advice to, assuming Dr. Bawumia, because he even promised 10 less. So.
That would have been suicidal. But then we hope that he will not come, a president will not come back and tell us that he wants to go beyond 60. I personally think that, I don't know, I've not been a minister before, I've not been a president before. What is in the, when they take over power, what happens? And sometimes they are unable to fulfill those promises. They only get to the high office and they come and tell us, well, I wish I had done that, but that's not the case, so let me change it. There's nothing wrong to change your mind at a certain point in time. Once it will be for the good of the country. But it also tells you, don't also be promising people things like that if you have no idea what you're supposed to do. And we're hoping that he will keep to the promise, because 21 days is just at the corner. And we will come back with some of these issues like that. Again, I'm also having a challenge. Is it a consolidation that we are doing, or a proper cutting off the ministry away? Because I think one article, President moves the Ministry of Information and Communication to
the presidency.
Is he moving the staff as well? What happened to the staff? And in that case, what happened to the expenditure? Are we cutting just a number or taking the name out, or those staffs, what happens to them? That's my worry. Because it will have effect also on our expenditure stream. That's my my issue. I don't know whether it's a consolidation we are doing or a proper cutting of those ministries off. If you are cutting, we are not including those ministries. That's fine. But then you change the name, move into another ministry, and keep the same staff there. Yeah. What are we trying to do? That's my worry. It's.
So I've heard different. I wanted you to land. I've heard different things. I guess different strokes for different folks. Yeah. And it was also a point that Alexander Afenyo-Markin said yesterday, or made yesterday, that what then happens to the staff. But I also think that, yes, there will be these staff, and some of them, the civil service, public service, and all of that. You will have to find ways, because you also can't just say that, okay, we are laying off since we have fused these ministries together. Technically, if you want the thinking, we are also just going to lay off all of these people. Something must happen. But in the end, in trying to attain the number 60, like we've all said here, some ministries are like duplications.
Yeah, which I agree.
And others really should have always been together.
Yeah.
Some would say that we've created railways and this at some point. They are all transport. Can you put them under one umbrella? Agric and some other components, can they be together? So I think those fusions, and over time, this wouldn't be the first time we've done some of these fusions or consolidation, as you call them. I think the devil then is how to streamline moving forward so that as you consolidate, you don't affect the public service too much, but then you can also ensure value. At some point, let's face it, and sometimes it's not so nice when we talk about them, but how many times have you not heard, oh, ministries, they are okay. A lot of people there, some of them doing nothing. Haven't we all heard that before? And maybe even said it at some point. You go to the ministry sometimes and it's delicate. I don't want to sound as though people were not doing their work. But I think as we even consolidate, there's also the opportunity for us to then narrow it down and see who is doing what, who is supposed to do what. Is that person doing it? Do we have value for money as a state? Or are we paying 3 people to do one job? Do you get it? We must get to that point so that efficiency and effectiveness will also come in. I don't know what you think, Jeff.
But I don't know what...
So I agree with you, but at the same time, I feel it's a natural course we have to take, and it mustn't end at consolidation. It must go on to whittle down so that then that's where we start getting value for money, because Kwame Nkrumah Boatio is most fit for this position. But there are 4 Kwame Nkrumah Boatios.
Yeah.
And only one is really performing.
Yeah.
Or it is the same job that Kwame Nkrumah Boatio should have done that has been carved out for 4 people. So essentially, all 4 of them are doing nothing when one person can do the work.
Excellent job. Excellent job, because see, and I'm glad the expert himself is here. Anytime we've gone to IMF, one of the key issues is the size of our public.
Indeed.
60% of our revenues are used to pay them. Like crazily, and
That thing makes no sense. 60%.
60%. No, it's crazy. It's unbelievable. And that's one of the biggest problems we are facing. Because, and it's not just the ministries. You go to Cocoa Board, you have a whole office, big office with a lot of human beings, and all they're supposed to do is to handle payroll. Big office. You go to JNPC, bloated. You see, the problem is that what our politicians have done over the years, and that's what I mean by our government is failing us, in the sense that they pepper over or they hide their failure to use their power of fiscal policy to create an environment where businesses will grow and thus create jobs, by they themselves employing so many people into the public sector to do no work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's where jobs for the boys and girls comes in.
Yeah.
Because we must satisfy the base. But in doing that, you create roles that, I mean, let me just chip in. You remember at a point in time, under the erstwhile administration, we saw a list of staffers and people were talking about, lady in waiting and all of that. I mean, it's the colonial period that ladies in waiting and all these people were on there. And they're taking money every month.
How?
From taxpayers' money.
I remember as far back as Kufuor era, when His Excellency President Kufuor, when plans were to merge the revenue agencies into one. I think that time the Revenue Agencies Governing Board was being set up. And I had the privilege, I just come out of university, of working on aspects of it, of being privy. And it's true that there were some duplications. And one of the policies that my colleagues and I suggested was what we term staff reprocessing. Because when you merge them, there are some people who are actually underemployed. Move them up to where they'll be useful. And those that...
And let's quickly understand underemployment.
Yes.
Yes. It means you have a certain skill set, but you are not using that skill.
You
are doing something that is not reflective. And you can be pushed up.
Exactly. And that was a very good program then that looked at all these things. Those that had to be brought up, they brought them up. And those that had to be laid off, they were laid off. I mean, it's a very tough bullet to bite. But we have to, if you are going to merge these ministries, move people up where they have to be moved up, and then lay people off where they have to be laid off. Otherwise, we just keep on bloating the public purse.
Are we good on that?
Yeah, I think we are good. We need a total overhaul, this ministry. Some of the works, activities done by these staff should be considered. And I'm sure it shouldn't be limited to this administration. I mean, the past administration and the years to come, those administrations that will be coming. We need to have a study that will have a look at the entire public sector space. What do we do?
Senior, there have been many of such studies, and maybe we'll throw it back to you, the academics.
How to make some of this
implementation?
That's a problem.
Implementation is a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
And wanting to satisfy the base. Yeah. I think we should also get to the point where we realize, yes, in satisfying the base, it must be measured, and then in looking at the general situation so that we don't end up, because these are the same situations that, if not curtailed, will lead to, like Andrew is saying, you have a bloated public sector, you are paying so much to people who are doing no work.
Yeah.
Very soon, if you are not careful, you'll start facing an economic or financial crisis. IMF comes in again, and then it's a vicious cycle you keep.
Yeah.
So there should be, for example, if I were thinking for anybody in government, I would say this whole bit about 60% going to the public service. Yeah. If we can whittle it down, and it must be radical.
Yeah, it should be.
If we can whittle it down to even 30%, do you know how much would be saved and be able to pump into roads, hospitals, and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was talking about the example of Javier Milei in Argentina. Radical change, but what they have done in Argentina, where Argentina was, and where... You see, you can't eat your cake and have it. You can't. Yeah. And since we are talking ministries, this will be the last thing I bring up. If you go to myjoyonline.com, there's that story of the president justifying absence of an information ministry under his government. And he says it's also to help him fulfill his promise to downsize the government. But this comes after the Ghana Journalists Association raised concerns regarding the changes in government structure to understand the rationale behind not having an information ministry. You do know that an information ministry plays a key role, even as far as media, safety, interactions, RTI, and other matters are concerned. And he says, with regard to government communications, you will notice that there's no information ministry in the lineup of 23 ministries recently announced. That was partly in response to our promise to downsize government. And we had to be very strategic with how we dealt with the flow of information from government, because that's critical to the success of whatever we intend to do. That's why we brought information into the presidency with a Minister of State in charge of government communications and anchored it with a string of strong communications professionals in the most critical sectors. And of course, we know Felix Kwachiofosu is helming that. What do you think from the GJA's perspective and from the president's perspective? Because on the one hand, I want to fulfill my promise, 60 ministries. On the other hand, the GJA is saying information ministry needed. Can the office at the presidency not do the work? I mean, they can equally do it from there, right? But what are your thoughts on that?
Also, first of all, let me say, in fact, that in my view, and I think I said on this platform before, that one of the most critical institutions to sustain the democracy we have here is the media, as in no two ways about that. And that's why, rightly, they are called the fourth estate. So we ourselves have given you the power, fourth estate, no law, you understand? Now the question is it the duty of the Minister or Minister of Information to regulate the activities of the media, my view is that I think the president has taken the view that the job of the Minister of Information is to aid government in giving out information, not necessarily to regulate or. I think that's the job of the national media.
NMC.
Yeah. And also we have what's called enough laws in our system to protect as in the work the media plays or their rights. And so personally, I do not see how having a ministry per se will impact on the role of what's called the media and journalists per se. See, what I think we should do, because of the importance of journalism, of media in this democracy, especially in creating that right for the country. You know, we have been saying that we can sustain this democracy and make it even better, get it more entrenched if we create that right political culture. Right. I think one of the biggest tools, one of the biggest independent tools in doing that is the media. So what we should do is, as a people, to push the agenda, so we create that right media ecosystem. And some right media ecosystem, and you can do that by the right laws, the right institutions, to create that right ecosystem. That would take away any issue that would hold back the media from doing its work. Okay. And create the right institution that will ensure that, as in you can do your work without fear of being what's called victimized, attacked, and all. Because, like I'm saying, the law said what we have the parliament, the executive, but you don't need any law to tell you that one of the most important and influential institutions in this democracy is the media, and the solution in entrenching their role, entrenching our right to free information and to share our thoughts, our mind. Really, it's not necessarily in just having one ministry, but really it's in the deliberate creation of that right media ecosystem. And for me, that will mean that you have the right laws, you have the right institutions, you have the right system that will entrench your right to give out information and for all of us to speak our mind. Because without that, without you, the media, then I think this is a democratic effort we're going to.
And I think it should even go beyond an information ministry. All ministries must understand. There are times where we've sought information from certain entities and they literally dig their heels in and they would rather pay a fine than from the RTI Commission than, than give you information. They will, I mean, you heard of that incident where I think it was Manasseh and his group and the Fourth Estate. And they wanted some information and eventually when you've hustled and tussled and huffed and puffed, they will give you the information, but then they give you, a ton of hard copies. Yes. Soft copy, they say you blaze through it. We'll give you 10,000, 20,000 pages. Go and read it.
I'm starting to hear these stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe
I think that was the SML.
I remember. They gave them boxes.
Yeah, the box. The thing comes in. You see it, and in your heart, you decide.
So the right information not working.
No. Prof,
oh, that's serious.
But I don't know what your thoughts are on this matter.
Well,
briefly, so that we can get.
I think I share
the
the same comments or summation from my good friend. For me, it's not about the creation. In fact, if you look at the headline, GJ clash with Mahama over information ministry. Sometimes quite misleading, as if there's a.
It's sensational.
So sometimes you can give a very good heading, maybe for people to look into the papers and read. But I think we should tone down some of the word clash over. Sometimes it could be just advice or so. But are we not having access to information? That's one thing. Is the media not having ways of expressing their views? We need to ask all these questions. If that is no, then we have a problem. But if it's yes, then the creation of this ministry, whether it's merged or whatever, I don't have a problem. Okay. The point is that we should be free to speak. We should be free to act and do things that... But I'm surprised of your submission in terms of they give you a huge document for you to go and pick up. In this time and age, you can't do this. You can't do this. And it comes down to the ministry issue we're talking about. People are quite so inefficient. You go there sometime, even typing becomes a problem. And this person is there, he's been paid over years. And it's a worrying.
Kwame, quick thoughts on that.
Quick thought. I mean, this is a very important story because if you look at this front page on the Searchlight, if you read it, the GJ was only seeking clarification. And I, honestly speaking, I agree with the president on this score. Because even from experience, as far back as 2004, I used to go to the WA Information Services Department. And that was the first time I had dealt with the information service. And the amount of information that they gave me for free, I was in shock.
Your mind was blown, eh?
I'm like, so we have all this in Ghana, but we have become ministry obsessed. We have very effective institutions.
Ministry of what?
Ministry obsessed.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Because we think once it's not coming from the top, then it doesn't have any power. I think you should even cut down more on the ministries.
Okay.
And pay attention to Information Services Department and the Ghana News Agency, as he said he would do, and as the GGA is backing.
Right.
These people are doing a great job, and the Fourth Estate has come a long way since the repeal of the criminal libel law in 2001. It has been a gradual process, but the media, without doubt, is now the fourth leg of governance. Right. The media is on its feet and is very, very strong. And I do not think we need a ministry of information. I mean, the media is doing a good job. We just need to make sure we finance Information Services Department, the GNA, and even other related bodies like the NCCE. You know, all of these perform vital functions.
They work together.
They work together. And because I was outside Accra and, I mean, getting information was difficult, I had to go to these places, and I was surprised. But because they are under-resourced, people don't know much about them and what they offer. So let's take another look. Let's pump some resources into these people, GNA, ISD, NCC, and let's stop being ministry obsessed and governance. And we are becoming too political. Let's be realistic. Let's be more of technocrats. Let's move the country forward.
I mean,
so I
name,
agree.
The name, the nomenclature may not be the most important thing.
Exactly.
Name.
Exactly.
But what must be done? Exactly. Is it going to be done? If it's going to be done, I don't have any problems. Do you get it? Because he mentions that he is going to modernize the Information Services Department, transitioning it from its traditional role as a civil service organization into a dynamic entity under the presidency. So if we're still going to get what we get and more, well,
I think it can be done. Because
what's in the name?
Yeah,
Exactly.
What's in the name? Exactly. But let's get into the papers. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, so I have here the Daily Searchlight. And we have an NGO questioning, where are the women ministers? Right. NGO questions.
So give us the headlines, and then we'll get into
it. And then we also have ensure your appointees declare assets, Crusaders Against Corruption. And
the president has spoken to that.
Yes.
I think, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, he was mentioning that they should start getting themselves ready to declare their assets.
Yes.
In one of the engagements. Yeah.
Yes, we have former President Kufuor consoles Reverend Wengam. And then the story I just dealt with, GGA clash with Mahama over information ministry.
Right.
And regarding the women ministers, Ms. Faustina Prempeh of DCI, that's Defense for Children International, they are asking that at least 39 women should be appointed into managerial and decision-making positions. And I think it's a gradual process. The president is still on it. So far, he's put in place extremely competent women in various positions, including my own former boss, Nanaya Jantua, who's now a presidential staffer. She did a great job at the PURC, and I know she'll do a great job here. I have my own friend, Shemima Muslim, who, my mates from Legon, I mean, even as far back as Legon, you could see that she's a born leader who will be doing amazing things. So far, he's put in place quite a number of women. The number may increase as it goes along. It's early days yet, but it's good the NGO is questioning it. And it shouldn't always be about the ministries. As I said, we are ministry obsessed. You see, we should be about leadership positions. You don't necessarily have to be the minister to be doing the work. You can be on a board somewhere and do a wonderful job, even more than the minister. Let's not look at the name. CEO, let's not look at the name. Let's not look at the title, the position. Wherever you are put, don't see any position as too low or too high. Yours is to be as effective as possible and give it your all. And then we also have...
And just to add to that, another area I'm hoping we can have more women, because if you look at the last district level elections, there were even complaints about the fact that with the little women there, some of them were also relieved of their positions, and men were brought in after, you remember, after the district level elections. Yeah. I also want to see more DCs and MCs that are women. Sometimes we completely forget. We are just thinking ministers and SOEs, CEOs and boards. But that is actually where we can see a lot of effectiveness at the grassroots. So DCs, MCEs, of course, they must have the quality, but can we intentionally have more women at that level?
We have to be intentional about it, because even on social media, a lot of people are advocating for various people to be made DCEs. A lot of them are male. And they are being backed by both male and female. And I think in this sense, we the men must also become feminists. Let's also identify some women who can be DCs. And let's push them out there.
You've said something I've said for a long time.
Let's push them out there.
A lot of the time, feminism, you have women, and I keep saying that the best people who can fight for more for women is men.
Exactly.
It's not that women can't fight for themselves. No, that's not the point I'm making. But oftentimes, if you look at the levers of power in different... When people were pushing for affirmative action in third-tier institutions, tertiary institutions, who were those who really made it happen? If you look at the structures back then, it was men. So I always say that, look, if we want more affirmative action, if we want more feminism and more women in, it is up to us men. And it is because we are failing that we don't have many more. So if we take up the mantle and we really want to do it, and I always say this, when I was at the University of Ghana, there was a position. I was president of a number of groups. Okay. I became president of this group, and I went into the books and looked, and I saw that for a long time, it had always been a man as president, and best case scenario for a woman, vice. Usually secretary and the rest. I campaigned, I did my best. After I left, it was a woman who became president.
Very good.
I wanted to.
Very good.
And so it took my consciousness. If I hadn't pushed for, and the woman didn't even want to take it up.
Yes.
So now encouragement, then speaking to before eventually. If we don't do that, because look at our political system. Honestly, if you look at the money in politics, if you look at how aggressive it is, most women may be of that quality, but they will think, why should I put myself forward for people to when you data 2x4 do you understand?
Yes.
But if we give them that encouragement, they'll get there. And women have been known to perform.
It's true. Yes, it's true. It has a very good point. It's about having a thick skin because public office comes with you being in the public eye. And as you said, somebody will buy some data and come up with allegations that are false, or even you say something and it will be twisted out of it. I agree with you. Even in Achimota School, in our year group, I was the SRC president. And then I pushed. And when we left office, the one who took over from me was the first female SRC president of Achimota School.
Congratulations.
So we always have to make a conscious effort.
Hey, that reminds me. What's the surname again? The nickname again?
Kubash. Don't forget Kubash. And if it gives wrong information, I'm here. I'll fact check.
Lest I forget again. This one I will not forget. How did you come by the name Kubash?
Kubash, it was actually inherited from another gentleman. A senior called Kubash. He and I, we had some features in common.
So Kubash number one, Kubash number two, Kubash come. Oh, I see. So it was merely based on the features and maybe rapport.
Yes.
All right. Any other stories you want to
And also ensure your appointees declare assets, crusaders against corruption. It's also a very good call. It's a good call. And I think I don't know the intention of the vetting committee, but some questions were asked which seems to want to bring to light maybe the financial or economic standing of various appointees.
I remember Afenyo Markin asking Haruna Idrisu, Minister Designate for Education, whether he owned a house in Cantonment. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And he said, you are a very honest man. Yes. He didn't say he was renting, he said he owned it.
Yes. He also asked a similar question to another appointee about renting. And the appointee admitted that she is renting, but sometimes too, I believe some of the questions may be a bit too personal. Allow them to declare their assets, and then we take it from there. Because putting it out as people renting or people owning, it's going a bit. I think it's going a bit too far.
In any case, though, if not to reveal some malfeasance, whether someone is renting or owns,
yes,
has no basis. How does that affect whether they can do their job or not? And if you even look at our economic situation, how many people, even in prime positions, own a house? So it's neither here nor there for me, unless it's to reveal some suspected act of corruption. I think it's.
But I have a different opinion about this asset declaration. It's good. It's good to declare what you have before you take an office over an office. It's good. Is it the first time doing this? It's happened before.
Yes.
Do we take time to assess the assets when they are exiting? Has there been a call like that?
That's the problem. That's one.
It's not enough just to come and declare, I have this. But when you're exiting, how many of us, administratively, taking time to peruse or find out what are you going with? You don't do that.
And it's really difficult getting that information. But beyond what you're saying, you're a finance person. Even more serious, and we have to accelerate so that we end within time. Even more serious is the fact that we keep focusing on assets, liabilities.
Well, that's
because I can come into the picture and I owe somebody 10 million Ghana cedis. You don't know. But my assets, they are what they are. So you see that my assets haven't changed. But I could be taking money and paying of mine. But you don't know of that. It's all about assets. How about liabilities?
Okay, let's do the equation well. If you take your liability from your asset, you get your equity, your net worth, who you are.
So
let's use the net back.
All right, let's quickly get into your paper very quickly.
Government was strengthened, the first story here.
So the New Finder newspaper.
The New Finder newspaper, right. Yeah. The government will strengthen fiscal management, then be fully equipping appointees by key officials. That's from the Minister of Finance. And there's another story here. Government doles out 1 million to victims of Kantamanto Market fire disaster. That has to do with the Kantamanto saga. Then Ghana must leverage ecotourism. These are the 3 stories that can be found in the New Finder. I mean, let's start with the first one. The government will strengthen fiscal management. This coming from the... Has it been confirmed now?
Yes, he's been confirmed.
Yeah, so that's...
The first 3...
I'm sure this will be the first promise that he's made, that the government will strengthen fiscal management. If I want to put these keywords out there, it's difficult for Makola folks to understand fiscal management. Is that we're going to fight or what? It's difficult to. But it's simply the process of planning, allocating resources, and monitor financial resources you have to achieve economic stability.
Right.
There's an end point. But then I often have a problem. There's one way of planning your resources, what you have.
Right.
There's another leg of you allocating resources. In fact, for these 2 areas, we are very good. Every minister and every administration, we plan well. We allocate. There are times we have issues with allocations because some other areas will not have equitable resources and all that. It happens. But my problem is always the monitoring part. The monitoring part. Do we monitor when we give out the resources out to those people? So I'm sure it's coming from, it's a good call from the Minister of Finance. We hope that's the key work he has to do.
Yeah.
Because in the ministry, for his ministry, you only control revenue, you control expenditure, and then you do a debt management part of it. So if you tell us you're going to do this, but it should be sustained. Okay. The last bit will be the government must leverage ecotourism. What is ecotourism? Ghana, we in that space to do that. It's simply sustainable form of tourism. That's all about. We should also find a way to leverage on this. And it's a good initiative if you are to do this, to get more revenue into the country. Okay. There should be so many avenues for government to have funds to support the expenditure portion of.
All right. We have to go, so I'll just add a few stories from the Daily Graphic and then we'll be out of here. Agbogloshi reclaimed land under siege. Scrap dealers, onion sellers occupy 80-acre land. This situation. Parliament approves 6 more ministerial nominees. Minister pledges reforms to tackle illegal fishing. Mahama Ayariga takes over majority leadership. Government donates 1 million Ghana cedis to Kantamanto fire victims. We need to find a cure for these market fires, including dealing with people who make illegal electrical connections, people who have gas cylinders and all of that. It's crazy. PURC directs Ghana Water Limited to resolve Krobo area water crisis. So maybe we can talk about the Kantamanto fire and the donation. We can talk about Mahama Ayariga. What do you think about the new leadership of the NDC in Parliament? Mahama Ayariga, Majority Leader, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, former, I believe, Central Regional Minister, now the Deputy, and then you have Roxanne Nelson Dafia-Mekpo, among others, as the whips. He's the Majority Chief Whip. And maybe this bit about the Agbogloshi reclaimed land under siege. Over 80 acres of land, the Greater Accra Regional Coordinating Council salvaged after the demolition of the Agbogloshi scrapyard and the onion market 4 years ago, and I was there, under siege. The walled parcel of land, 15 acres of which have been earmarked for the construction of the Ablekuma Central Municipal Hospital, is being taken over by the scrap dealers who have started staging a dramatic comeback. Within 2 weeks, scores of scrap dealers had broken through the protective wall and started constructing wooden structures on the land with impunity. Gentlemen, we have 2.5 minutes, 30 seconds each, quickly.
So quickly, so these are public lands. As we give them power to also protect public lands. To protect public pairs also means that you are going to protect public property. And I think the reset agenda also means that government, people who are given government powers, will show commitment and fidelity to their duties, and they'll protect property that belongs to all of us. Because essentially what they have done is that they've slept on their job and they've allowed property that belongs to all of us to be taken over by.
Is it because of the transition and getting people in place that this is happening? It shouldn't be, should it?
You know, it should happen. There's no, and it's not just about this transition. It's a problem that's plagued us. The Galamsey issue falls on that similar
Same
issue.
thing.
And something, and what I'm saying is a clear case of people wanting power,
Okay.
but who don't want to work.
All right. And Galamsey is one of the issues I'll be touching on this morning. I'll blow your mind with some of the data that is filtering through. Yes, Kwame Nkrumah.
Quickly, I will start.
30 seconds. Let's try and do it.
I'm excited about the new majority leadership, especially with, I think you mentioned
Mahama Ayariga.
Honorable Kweku Ricketts Hagan, especially
deputy.
because he's an economist and an investment banker.
Right.
I think Parliament has a lot of legal practitioners, and they bring, Mahama Ayariga, and they are all very competent. Roxanne, they are all competent legal practitioners. But I think it's a breath of fresh air when we have non-legal practitioners also in leadership. It brings a whole new different angle.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, 1 million given to the victims of Kantamanto Market. I think it's the highest donor now.
Yes, I think. We've heard from Alan Chomateng, Dr. Baumia. I think
yeah, I think it's when someone is in a problem or crisis, we support. But then, I think I need to support what you said. When can we find a solution, a lasting solution to this problem? Donation is one of, but we should find a solution.
Lasting solutions. Please. All right. I see Kennedy Noom. I had to acknowledge your message because you say someone is trying to scam you using Joy News' name. And you also have to be very careful out there. We've been putting out these explainers videos telling you that there are scammers out there, some of them using images, and it's not really, you can tell, AI, deep fake, so you have to be careful. Drop your number on the live stream and we'll see how we can reach you and help salvage the situation. Before we go, I'd like to acknowledge Siru Africa, Mudasiru, who always clothes me on Fridays, making me look good. Young man, let's support his business. You can call him on 0557 029 138, 0557 029 138, or on social media, Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram at SIRU-Africa. Let's support our own. And those who joined us for the news review this morning, Professor Isaac Bwedi, he's Dean Accounting and Finance at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. We also had joining the conversation Kwame Nkrumah Boatio, General Secretary of the CPP, and Andrew Appiah Dankwa. He is a legal practitioner and member of the Movement for Change. And let me mention that Kwame Nkrumah Boatio as well is a legal practitioner. Kubash.
You had to bring
that. And that's the note on which we cap off the news review. Stay with us for sports up next with Haruna Mubarak.